a little bit. Before I get started, there's some product we have right behind you. We have hats. This hat says, Jesus Christ, Heavenly Devoted Son. Harley Davidson cannot sue us because we bought this off the internet. And this shirt, this is a new shirt actually. It's pretty cool. We picked it out. I have no idea what it says yet. Foreigner, or forgiven. I told you, I have no idea what it says. There you go. Hey, we are foreigners in this world. I've been here before, once. My name is Josh. I'm 22 years old.
Josh.
I'm kind of the oddball. Well, from the obvious thing. But for most of the guys here, they were addicted to drugs, almost their whole lives. I only used drugs for about a year out of my life. I was addicted to rebellion, pornography, stealing. Anything can be an addiction. And it controlled my life to the point of where I was stealing from my mother, stealing from my little brothers, my grandmother. I didn't do anything for my family if it didn't please me. Growing up, I was just a rebellious, mean kid. I went to church every Sunday, but when I got home, I could care less about what the pastor had said at church, what Jesus had commanded me to do. And I grew really cold over the years. I was forced into being a youth usher, and I got baptized around the age of 13. And that's when God called me into the ministry, when I really started rebelling. I had my own office, my own desk in the principal's office. I was one of those kids that when you came to school, you kind of figured that he was going to wind up in the principal's office by the end of the day. And it took my mom through so much hell and torment. And she's such a good woman. She prayed for me constantly. My grandmother prayed for me constantly. And without prayer, I don't think I'd be here right now.
Amen.
I don't think I would have been able to discern the voice of God telling me to come here. I got out of high school and it just got worse than I could have ever expected. I started stealing from innocent people, cashing their paychecks at gas stations, beating them up, taking their money, running around with gangs. It just got to a point of where my life was in shambles and I didn't know what else to do. I got to the point of where I broke into the house of a Sarasota County Sheriff's Officer and a state prosecutor. Yeah, it really was. The good thing is I didn't know until I got into the interrogation room and they said, whose house you broke into? I was like, yeah, a couple people. No, Sheriff's Office and prosecutor. I was like, oh. I was looking at 2 to 50 years in prison. And I was like, it's my first felony. Why? But I don't think they really cared at that point because I admitted to everything because I didn't want to, get in too much trouble. And me admitting to all that is something I never would have did. I would have lied my way out of it and been like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And when I got out of jail, by God's grace, 5.5 months in, which I wasn't supposed to, my bond was way too high for me to get out of jail, and my family bonded me out. I found out about this program through an associate pastor in my church who went through it in the late 80s. I filled out the application, but it was just kind of like a get out of jail free card at the time. If God allowed me to go here, I'd go, I'd do it, and I'd leave. And when I walked into the courtroom and the judge sentenced me, I thought I was going to prison. She told me 1129 and 2 years of probation and completion of loving hands. And at that moment, I almost passed out and just fell down crying. I was so happy. I was excited. I was going to jail, not prison. And for most people, that's not really anything too significant, but my life changed that day. When I went to jail, I actually grabbed the Bible and I started reading it, and I started, trying to apply a little bit of what I was reading to my life. And since I've been here, God's put the call on my life that I have no, I don't have any confusion about. He's called me to preach the gospel, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going forward to do what God's called me to do. Like Garrett, I'll be attending Southeastern in August, and hopefully we'll get to dorm together, so I won't have any weird guy in my room, because I already know him. And I'm just grateful for what God has done in my life and where He's brought me from, and the change He's put in my life. I've learned that a minister is called to pour himself out on others. He gets filled up to pour himself out. He gets filled up again to pour himself out again. And I've learned so much. It's crazy how much you can learn about the Bible. And it's such a big book. And you can learn so many things out of that book and remember so many things. I'll stop preaching, and I'll leave you guys with Galatians 2:20. For I'm crucified with Christ. It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives in me. In this life that I live in the flesh, I live in the faith of the Son of God who loved me and gave Himself for me. Yeah.